Hello, Glyn here. Today, I would like to talk to you about how to not take things personally. So I'm wondering what you've been holding back from speaking out about something. So if someone harms me, I've got bruises or broken bones or cuts, I can heal from the physical. Yet there's still the issue of the emotional experience that I have. I'm still free to choose the emotional experience I assign to what happened. So let me take a moment to say that there are usually more than two people in each emotional exchange. There are two people physically present, perhaps. Then there's all the experiences or people that this situation reminds me of that has happened in the past. And likewise for the other person too. So at least four people, possibly more, are in this one conversation. So no wonder it can get tricky. So most importantly, my interpretation of the other person and their motives can be eased when I think about my needs that may not be met or my needs that I'm wanting to meet. I often speak about needs language, and needs are universal and they're not specific to any gender or religion or practice or age group. And it's liberating for me to imagine that perhaps my need for respect is not being met by their actions or words, which frees me from thinking that the person is right or wrong or blaming them for something that they've actually said to me. My heart can open a little and I can feel relieved and more open to imagining what was going on for them after what was going on for me. I need to take and put me first. So if I don't have this information by the way of needs language, I hold on to thoughts like they were wrong, I was right, it still hurts, there are, whatever you want to say they are. I carry it with me. I then carry, when those thoughts come up, I then carry acid in my body, that in my tummy's digestive system, and that's where other physical illnesses can start to brew. So we don't want that. So overall, I'm still irritated that this person did whatever they did to me, and I'm stuck. So you may be thinking that illnesses will take ages and you will have forgotten about whatever the thing is in a week's time. And to a degree, the problem won't be top of mind. And with time, you won't think about it much. So it seems on the surface like it's gone. But all our emotional triggers come back to bite us, sometimes. So I heard an HR manager just yesterday say, call those sorts of things, any conflicts at work, a major disabler. So I often talk about conflicts at work being, really affecting people's energy. And also, once you clear the conflict, you are so much more proficient at work and so much more productive. You are much more creative as well. So when your thoughts are on the issue or the unfairness, your mind isn't free to imagine or to allow other creative ideas to pop in and develop. So you're a little bit hampered. If you haven't caught up with my transformative journaling experience, I'm just going to give you a brief rundown now of what you can actually do. So the 4 steps are basically looking, well, there's one overarching step that you do first, and that is you get to vent on paper, or preferably with a coach. So when you actually have a coach and they let you vent and they walk with you side by side, they can actually be an empathic witness for you. There's nothing quite like telling somebody else about what's going on for you, and that person is not judgmental. So that's the first part, to get it all out on paper, to just vent. But if you vent without moving forward and looking at the needs, then you're just recreating the same story over and over again. And then that embeds it into your psyche and your body, and then you repeat that and you actually attract it. So that's not so good. We don't want to attract anything. So often you'll hear people say things like, oh, it was in the tone of their voice, or the way they were standing looked as if they were angry, or they'd never been like that with me. You know, their eyes stared at me like I was the enemy. So we want to get a lot of the venting out on paper and then look at the things that I've just mentioned there. So things like, it was the tone of their voice, it sounded sharp. So then you want to move into exactly what did happen, like it's a camera shot. And then before I go into the second piece of it, did you know that like nonverbal communication is 93% of our total message? So if we're thinking something, but we're saying something else and trying just to be nice to the other person, it's going to come out. People notice that stuff. They may not know exactly what you're thinking, of course, but they do notice. And then there's an uncomfortableness, and then there's not the space for trust to develop between two people, or connection. So the nonverbal component, the nonverbal communication, is made up of our body language, which is 55%. And if something's going on for us, often it'll be reflected in our body. So it might be that you know, squish your hands like this. If you're feeling nervous, there'll be some sign. And the other 38% is the tone of your voice. So it's very hard to describe sometimes somebody's tone. You just know that was different than before. So our words make up the remaining 7% of communication, and they're really important and just as important. But that whole energy behind it is really the most important thing. And that's why I talk a lot about journaling. Journaling is something you can do for yourself and at any time. In the same way that you would approach a coach, you would also be kind of journaling, but out loud to them. So I guess any kind of conflict that somebody experiences really needs to be called impact. So have you ever been in one of those conversations where you've noticed someone's tone of voice change, or they might be standing closer to you, or they might be talking louder, and you immediately want to run away? And people are more open and honest in a genuine conversation where they feel safe sharing their thoughts and beliefs. And that's something that we really need to practice a lot more. So, you know, there's a speech that I really like, which is the Martin Luther King Jr. speech of I Have a Dream. I find it inspirational. However, if you don't like King Jr. or the principles he stood for, then it might come across as insincere or offensive in some way. So what I want to do is tell you that if I can do it, you can do it. You can claim your power back. So what are you going to reclaim this week? I'd love to celebrate with you. So please drop me a comment in the video and just let me know what you might be reclaiming or what's actually bugged you. So personal power is what I talk about. And I'll be starting a Facebook group on personal power soon. But personal power is more of a person's attitude or state of mind rather than an attempt to maneuver or control others. So its primary aim, the primary aim of personal power is sort of like a self-mastery, a self-trust, an inner competence. And it's basically what that actually looks like is that you remain in the room when every part of your being wants to leave in a hurry. So what I mean by remain in the room is I mean that you can face the challenge or you can stay in the conversation with someone when you're hearing something that's less than a welcoming message. So when you can remain in the room without being defensive or overawed, you can state your needs calmly, knowing that inside that you know you have needs and they matter and you matter. So it's really being free from being that overall defensive kind of person to being able to respond with your own needs, or being present with another person's needs that may not be what you wanted, and not taking it personally. It takes practice. I mean, if I can do it, you can do it. I believe in you. So we're often likely to be defensive when we interpret the actions of others as an attack. So an example of that might be when you're picking up the kids from school and your partner or your ex-partner actually finds out that you were 5 minutes late and your child had to wait and they started to get upset. So our kids are so important to us. And when we hear criticism with phrases like, I hear you were late to pick up Johnny, what held you up? Or it could be a little bit more edgy, like, I hear you were late to pick up Johnny again. What happened this time? Some words are there to emphasize our emotional intensity. Things like the word again, never, and always. When these words are used, they can be information into how much intensity is present inside. So try to listen as if everything is information rather than a personal attack. It will help diffuse a conversation. So the other 3 parts of the process, once you've named it as a fact or a camera shot, then look at, well, when I think about that, how do I feel? And then just name a feeling. And then you can look at, well, if I was feeling, say, frustrated that my child was left at school, albeit only for 5 minutes, they're safe and sound now, but I was frustrated. What am I wanting in that situation? And it might be something like support, or you want to be able to rely on somebody. You know, you want them ultimately being able to rely on somebody isn't the need, but maybe the need is for support. So then what is one step that you can actually do to move that forward? So the first thing you could do, it could be a request of yourself to journal it out. It could be a request of yourself to grab a coach and run it through past them. It could be, I could talk to my ex-partner about it. And that could be the next step that you go through. And once you've got what you're actually wanting, you can communicate that to the other person. So you can actually tell them, just really wanting support. And that, because the other person knows what support looks like to them and they've wanted support at some stage in their lives, that can be the part where you both get on the same page. Now, there's lots of ways that you can also journal, and you can talk to a coach, you know, when somebody else says no. There's lots of ways that you can go further, but just for now, being able to journal in that way is going to just help clear it from your mind and help your body to relax, so that you will be able to take that next small step. Thank you for listening. I hope that's helpful. And you can always drop me a line and ask me a question.